Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to look at grief in a way you might not have before. We'll explore a perspective that says the real struggle isn't with death itself, but with something happening deep inside of us.
This quote from our source, man, it just gets right to the point, doesn't it? The idea is that the pain of grief isn't really about the event itself. The real fight, the real struggle, is with that empty space, that void, that person has left behind inside you. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by digging into the real source of grief. Then we'll look at how it hits us on two totally different levels, one in the mind and one deep in the body. And we'll wrap up by exploring a very specific practical path toward healing.
So, what's actually going on when we grieve? Well, according to our source material, the true origin of that pain isn't what most of us think it is. Think about it like this. The intensity of your grief is a pretty direct match for how much of your life that person took up. You know, if they were a small part of your world, the void they leave is manageable. But if they were your entire world, they leave this huge, gaping vacuum, and that's where the real, profound struggle comes from. Okay, and this is where this perspective gets really interesting. It suggests that grief isn't just a mental or emotional thing. Nope, it's happening on two totally distinct levels, one in your mind and another in your body.
Now, we all know the mental side of grief, right? The memories, the sadness, those waves of emotion, that's familiar territory. But our source points to the second, much deeper layer, a physical grief, something the body itself actually remembers about the person who's gone.
This idea of a physical bond actually has a name in the yogic tradition, Runanubandha. So let's take a closer look at what that really means.
So, from this yogic point of view, Runanubandha is the physical memory your body literally holds of other people. The source gives this pretty wild example. Sometimes, a person might suddenly feel physically drained or just ill, for no apparent reason, only to find out later that a loved one has passed away. The claim is that the body is reacting to that physical bond being severed even before the conscious mind has any idea what's happened.
And this physical bond, this Runanubandha, it's not the same with everyone. According to the source, it's at its absolute strongest with our parents, the very people who gave us our physical body, and also with our children and our spouse. But here's the kicker. This physical bond isn't a constant thing. According to the source, its intensity can change, and change dramatically, based on our age and even our gender.
Okay, so check out these specifics. This is pretty fascinating. For someone under 21, losing a parent is said to be just devastating on a physical level because that bond is so strong. For a 42-year-old man, the source says it's still physically painful. But for a woman of the same age, the claim is that this physical bond has weakened so much that the pain is felt almost entirely on a mental and emotional level.
Now, it's super important to point out that the source treats the bond with a spouse very differently. The loss of a spouse is described as a unique kind of Runanubandha that creates deep physical pain for anyone, no matter how old they are.
So, when you're faced with this deep, multi-layered pain, what do? Well, the source presents us with a pretty fundamental choice.
And this is really the fork in the road. Are we just looking for temporary comfort, someone to pat us on the back? Or are we willing to seek a lasting solution by actually getting to the root of the pain? According to this perspective, that's a decision everyone has to make for themselves.
For those who choose the path of a lasting solution, the source offers a very clear, actionable spiritual practice, which is known as a sadhana.
The first step is a big one. Stop running from the pain. Instead of trying to distract yourself with entertainment or social events, the recommendation is to turn inward and face that void directly. Because simply trying to forget about it, well, that's not a real solution. So the practice itself has 3 core steps. First, find a place where you can be completely alone for 3 days. Second, you remove all distractions and all social obligations. And third, with as much intensity as you possibly can, you chant the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. The whole point of this is to work directly on those deep physical memories and help rejuvenate your system from the inside out. And when the source mentions intensity, it's very specific. We're not talking about a few minutes here and there. The recommendation is for a minimum of 4.5 hours of this chanting every single day for all 3 days. This is the level of commitment they say is necessary to truly address that deep physical imprint of the loss. So ultimately, this whole perspective brings us back to a really powerful personal question. When life creates these inevitable voids inside of us,
What are we going to choose? Will we look for the next distraction to try and numb the pain, or will we find the courage to turn inward and do the work required for a true solution?